Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stacks podcast, where today we're going over UFC Mexico Moreno versus Royval 2. First things first, we've already done the full breakdown card. With a heavy heart, honestly, I just heard that our boy, one of our favorite podcasts in the planet, the Die Hard MMA podcast, did in fact, they're just unable due to circumstances, they're unable to do the undefeated post weigh-in show. Thoughts and prayers out to him and his family. I hope everything goes through just fine. And I remember John Anik making a statement about how poor the just MMA community is, how everyone's kind of just annoying, can be really hurtful out there. Well, there's some good seeds out there, so I'm just letting you know. First and foremost, again, Clint, thoughts and prayers to your family. Secondly, we got your back. You got some really diehard followers, and I just happen to be one of them. So willing to step up to the plate. And essentially, there's always going to be an undefeated podcast in this community because we got each other's back. I got you, Clint. So I'll do a super quick. I'm not stepping on any toes. This is his deal. He does a great job. Watch the undefeated podcasts every single week. And I'll just do a really quick one in regards to some of the things I saw, just so that people aren't being left out to dry with the stuff that he has to do. So, very first fight, we have Muhammad Naimov going up against Eric Silva. They both looked fine, nothing really crazy to write home about. During the face-off, though, Eric Silva, I thought was going to be the larger man. I know Naimov is absolutely massive, but I had no idea he was going to tower over Eric Silva like that. I know that I've been going back and forth in regard to just taking the dog shot on Eric Silva because I do think Naimov's a little bit of a fraud. But that size discrepancy, I can't do it. I just can't do it. We're gonna have to stick with Naimov. These odds are out of control. Him being minus 575 now, that's way too high. Do not parlay this dude. Just completely stay away from this fight, to be honest with you. If anything, take the under chalk and leave it as is. Just don't trust Naimov, but I don't think I can any longer have any sort of confidence in betting Eric Silva. Next fight, we have Victor Altamirano going up against Felipe Dos Santos. I got nothing really here to talk about. Both looked phenomenal on the scale. Victor always giving his traditional pose with his little hand arm up thing. Victor, I thought would be the smaller man, but these two sized up pretty well at the weigh-ins. No man was larger than the other. And again, I like Felipe Dos Santos, but I'm catching weird vibes from him. I'm thinking of Gabriel Santos came in on short notice, fought Lerone Murphy, went to a really close decision. And then after that, he was a huge favorite in his return fight because he looked good in a loss. There's not a lot different here from Felipe Dos Santos than Gabriel Santos. He's also Brazilian. He's also very young. In fact, he's even younger. He's only 23, and I think Santos is 25. He looked impressive in a loss, and now he's a massive favorite coming in his second career fight. Well, in Santos' favorite second fight in the UFC, he went out there and got KO'd by David Onama. Is Victor Altamirano going to do that? No, he has no KO power at all. But we are in Mexico City. We have a Mexican fighter. The crowd was pretty quiet for the Eric Silva fight, but they got very loud with the Victor Altamirano fight. So these fans can't sway these judges. If anything, I do like Victor by decision here. And I don't have a tin hat to put on. But I am also considering Victor by split is plus 1100. Again, they don't call me the madman on Instagram for no reason. I'm definitely gonna have a play on Victor Altamirano by split, and honestly, he has a lot of split decision. Even just in the UFC in general, his contender series fight split decision, his first UFC fight split decision. Like he is not afraid of going to a split. He fights everyone close. He fights everyone hard. And at that point, he's the sheer value side here, especially with them being very equally sized up. Next fight of the night, we have Luis Rodriguez going up against Dennis Bondar. I was on Bondar all week. However, Luis Rodriguez looked fine on the scale. He does a lot of bantamweight fights on the regional scene. He fought at 125 in Contender Series. He's fighting at 125 in his debut in the UFC here. So I wanted to watch him on the scale, see how he looked, and he looks perfectly fine. Looks nothing wrong. Big flex on the scale, smiling, and the crowd was going crazy for Lazy Lazy Boy. They liked Victor Altamirano. They are obsessed with Lazy Boy here. Dennis Bonder, nothing wrong with him. He looked a little dead in the eyes, but he looked perfectly fine at the ceremonial weigh-ins. These guys also match up well. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I was on Bondar. I'm gonna have to stick with Bondar as money's still coming in on Lazy Boy. I don't think Lazy Boy is good at all. I don't think he's UFC caliber. I also don't think Denise Bondar is UFC caliber. So I'm just betting whoever's the plus sign next to him. So I'm gonna stick with Bondar. I'm gonna ride it out, but I am a lot less confident after seeing how closely they weighed in and how good Lazy Boy looked on the scale. Next fight, we have Claudia Puelles going up against Faraz Ziam. Both guys made 145, or sorry, 155, no problem. Faraz Ziam looks good, man. He's going out there giving flexes on the scale. Claudia Puelles pretty stoic, but nothing wrong with him. In the face-offs, you have Faraz Ziam doing his little finger wag, and I mean, if they talk trash and they're doing he's just confident. He's very confident. He looks a lot better after getting cut and coming back to the UFC. The win over Mike Figlak, the win over Jai Herbert. Like he looks so much improved. He took 2 years off after getting choked out by Terrence McKinney and looks like he just capitalized on it. He's still super young, still improving. Claudia Puelles, we haven't seen in a year and a half. Are we going to see a major improvement here? I'm not too sure. I can't trust it. I think he's just going to go for his traditional knee bars and call it a day. So I'm still on Ziam here. And I actually like Ziam more. After seeing how much larger he is the bigger man here when they squared up, and his confidence that he was exuding. He looked fine on the scale and he looked confident when they were face to face. I like that. So the pick is still going to be Ziam, and I'm going to still rock with Ziam. Then we have the Grease here. We only had two fighters miss weight this week, and they're fighting each other. Daniel Lacerda, he didn't look terrible on the scale, but he didn't look good, and he missed by a pound. He did everything he could to make the weight, and he just didn't do it. He missed weight for like the third consecutive fight. But Charas was 6 pounds over. I mean, 5 pounds with the extra pound allowance, but still, he's a whole weight class off here. He didn't look great. His cheekbones were a little sucked out. It looks like they're still going to go through with this fight. But I don't know, man. This is weird. I always didn't trust Charas at minus 355. Now him coming in 6 pounds over, I trust him even less. Does that make me want to bet also overweight Lacerda? Fuck no. But if I'm doing anything, it's dog or pass in this situation. If Charas isn't taking this seriously or had some sort of ailment causing the 6 pounds over, you cannot trust him at this price. So the right thing to do is just pass. But if anything, I'm going to go ahead and take the dog here. I thought about taking the dog by submission. I'm even slightly considering this going to a decision. I kind of don't hate the over here either. I don't know what's going on. It's a lot of grease. I would just do dog or pass and call it a day. Don't get too fancy. If you want to get crazy, I'm feeling Lacerda by sub or decision, or this fight to go the distance. All of those are extreme plus money, or you can just take the plus 200 on Lacerda and call it a day. All right, next fight we have Mateus Mendoza and Jesus Aguilar. This was interesting. Jesus Aguilar celebrated as if it was a tough weight cut. He didn't look bad at all, but he did his little prayer thing and started cheering and jumped off the scale in excitement when they read off that he made weight. He's the smallest flyweight in UFC, so I don't know why he would be struggling. If anything, if they had like a men's strawweight division, he would make it easily. He's a tiny dude. So I don't know. That was kind of weird to me. On the other side, we have Mendoza. He looked perfectly fine. Again, this is someone that traditionally fought at 135, dropped down to 125 to fight Nate Maness. He looked fine there. He looks fine again. Hopefully his fight IQ, he looks a little better in the octagon. But these dudes faced up. We knew Mendoza would be bigger. He wasn't as big as I thought he'd be compared to Aguilar. Maybe Aguilar got a little bigger, but he's still much larger. He's still going to have a 10-inch reach advantage. He's still going to be able to toss him around the octagon. He's still a shoot to box fighter that likes to pressure forward, and he should still get this win. He does slow down in his fights, and a lot of people are on Jesus Aguilar. I don't agree, man. I just always see whenever you have someone that is up a weight class and dropping, and then someone that was below a weight class and going up, when they meet in the middle, the larger person always wins. If someone was traditionally at 145 and they fight at 135 and they're fighting someone that always fought at 125 and they're going up. I don't know why I can't think of an example right now. Um, I'm thinking maybe like Chelsea Chandler beat Stolyarenko because she usually fights at a lower weight class and went up. I'm thinking, gosh, there's so many examples of these, and the larger person always wins. And here we go with the smallest flyweight who isn't actually a flyweight, it's just the lowest division they have. And he's going up against someone with a 10-inch reach advantage because he used to fight at 135. I just can't look the other way. It's got to be Mendoza here. And I'm not wavering. I'm going to stick with Mendoza, even though everyone else is going Jesus Aguilar. Next fight, we have Hani Barcelos going up against Christian Quiones. This is another uneventful one. Both guys look perfectly fine on the scales. They were very cordial and happy and just smiling at each other at the face-offs. Nothing crazy to talk about here. Barcelos is by far the better fighter. He's the better striker. He's the better grappler. He's the better jiu-jitsu practitioner. But at the end of the day, he's 37 years old. Keones essentially just has a puncher's chance, and there's just something in my gut that is saying he's going to catch the chin of an aging veteran. I mean, Christian Keones is not good. He might be a little fraudulent. He's a little fragile himself, to be honest with you. But I just continually see him rocking guys with a right cross, and I saw Hani Barcelos get dropped by Victor Henry with a right cross. I saw Hani Barcelos get dropped by Kyler Phillips with a right cross, and I just keep seeing Christian Quiones throwing it over and over and over. So I'm concerned. I like Hani. I want him to win. I think Christian isn't that good. I think he's overrated. But he has the tool that you need to put him out. So at the end of the day, I'm probably going to end up with an under. I know Barcelos doesn't really tap anyone out, but I don't think Christian's durable and he has a bad ground game. So Barcelos is definitely going to have opportunities, and I think he gets the job done or he gets caught. Either way, I'm just going to take the under and just bet violence. Next fight of the night. Speaking of violence, we have violence just incarnated in Manuel Torres. Looked great on the scale. Big flex after making weight. Big smile, perfectly fine. Chris Duncan was screaming stuff in Spanish about the problem is here. I think he said el problema está aquí. And it's like he's doing his research. He's given a lot of weird interviews this week talking about his sleep schedule, talking about him sleeping and certain things to adapt to the altitude. He's being kind of weird this week, to be honest with you. The face-off surprised me. Manuel Torres, I always think about as being this massive, massive man. And Chris Duncan was just as big as him, to be honest with you. He doesn't have as big of a size advantage as I thought. Still doesn't matter. Chris Duncan still has a durability issue. And he's going to be at altitude. And if he tries to wrestle, if you're a striker and you try to wrestle the whole time, you get tired faster. It happens time and time again. So if he goes out here and he just tries to wrestle Manuel Torres, he's going to gas himself out. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Torres is also a gas bag. He has a little bit, he might have worse cardio than Chris Duncan. So this fight is very greasy on paper. But I think I saw a lot of people on Chris Duncan as a public dog. I get it. I understand it, but there's way too much weight being brought into his last fight against Yanil Ashmus. First and foremost, Ashmus could probably be a featherweight. I don't think he's a true lightweight. Secondly, I think everyone's forgetting he broke his arm in that fight. Like the first round, I think Chris might have thrown a kick. Chris might have broken it. But at the end of the day, he was essentially a one-arm fighter for 15 minutes. He went out there and broke his arm early in round one. And if you say, well, Chris looked great on the best he ever looked on the feet, he was fighting a one-armed featherweight. Of course, he's going to look great on the feet. Of course, he's going to be able to get some takedowns. He physically can't stuff it. He had one arm. He was a one-arm fighter out there. So I do not put any weight into the Yanil fight. And Omar Morales was also a featherweight. And he went out there and struggled with him. So I don't know, man. I think Chris is overrated. I think Manuel Torres is also overrated, but I think he's a killer, and I think he's going to find that chin. And if he doesn't find that chin, he might sub him. I don't hate his front headlock series. He has a lot of good chokes. He loves his guillotine. And Duncan, when he shoots, he only shoots doubles, and he's asking to get his neck yanked. So whether it's submission, whether it's KO'd, I think Duncan does get put out, and I hope it's fast because if it's not, Manuel Torres cardio does scare me. Next fight, we have Yasmin Hierogui going up against Sam Hughes. Both ladies made 115, no problem. Both look phenomenal. Only female fight on the card, and there's nothing to talk about. Yasmin looks very, very serious out there. So does Sam. But I just think Yasmin just has the physical tools. She's just the better fighter. Sam Hughes, God bless her heart, will go out there and she will fight for your money. Yasmin's way too big of a favorite. But her main problem is the fact that she has durability issues and she has no chin. But Sam Hughes can't squash a grape. Like she has zero power whatsoever. And I think this is a setup fight by the UFC. They know that Yasmin's better everywhere. She just has a chin issue. So let's find the person with the least amount of power on the roster. And here comes Sam Hughes. So I think it's Yasmin. I think Yasmin's going to dominate. And I think Yasmin is going to get that easy win. Next fight, we have Raul Rosas Jr. going up against Ricky Tercios. This is probably the weirdest one on the night. Ricky had that weird thing on his chest. I don't know if it's like a staph infection or what was going on, but there's something fucked up with Ricky Tercios' chest. I've never seen that on his chest before. He made weight, but he was moving awkwardly, and again, he has some weird skin condition going on. Raul Rosas status quo looked the same as usual. Big back on this guy. When they faced off, Ricky Tercios kept his shirt on at the ceremonial weigh-in. I don't know what's going on with him. Something's going on. Hopefully, this fight doesn't get canceled. If you have either one of these guys in your DFS lineups, keep an eye on it. Keep an eye on that Charas fight too, just in case any funny business happens and these fights get canceled. But I don't know, man. He had some weird thing on his chest and then refused to take his shirt off at ceremonials. I've never seen anyone weigh in with a shirt at ceremonials. Even the heavyweights take their shirt off. So I don't know. There's something wrong. And Ricky is essentially telling us something wrong. So, although I'm petrified of Rosas Jr. in elevation, if Ricky's compromised, I think he'll be able to. He already has 45% sketchy takedown defense. If he's compromised, he won't be able to stuff anything. So I'm going to pick Rosas. I'm going to bet Rosas. I don't feel great about it, but I feel better now that I think Ricky's compromised. Next fight, we have Francisco Prado going up against Daniel Zellhuber. They both look perfectly fine. Zellhuber's massive. Daniel's really, really, really big. Mexican crowd was going crazy for him. Prado looked just fine, looked jacked. When they face off, big height advantage for Daniel. That really, it really doesn't matter. It's just a matter of his durability. He gets hit a lot. So as long as he stays durable, it's fine. I saw him get dropped in his last fight against Christos Giagos. But at the end of the day, he's the better striker. He has 94% takedown defense, trains with, or at least used to train with our buddy Max Roscoff. Shout out. So of course his wrestling's phenomenal. Sneaky good ground game on him. Like Daniel's the real deal, only 24 years old. Prado, only 21 years old. So pretty interesting there, but I think it's Daniel all day. Next fight, we have Yair against Brian Ortega. Yair looked perfectly fine on the scale, really amped up, screaming, and had the one of the biggest crowd reactions. Brian Ortega, they didn't boo Brian because he's also Mexican, but they didn't really like cheer him that much. He's a little soft bodied out here, but he generally is, so that's not a big surprise. These two faced off. We've seen them before. Yair's the taller man. Very friendly handshake. Yair grabbed them, they hugged it out. And both stood under the Mexican flag, considering they both have Latino roots. I mean, all in all, it should be a close fight. I still stand the same. I think Yair is going to absolutely smash, and then he's going to start to fade, and Ortega might take over. The fact that this is a 5 round fight definitely favors Ortega. The value's definitely on Ortega, but something stopping me from pulling the trigger. Again, if anything, I'm gonna live bet Ortega. I'm gonna let Yair beat the shit out of him for the first round and a half. Then I'm going to live bet Brian Ortega when it's a ridiculous number, as long as he's still sitting around there. He's awfully durable, and I think he'll be fine. All right, next, and then the last fight of the night, we have Raw Dog, the future champ, Royval, up against Brandon Moreno. You want to talk about a hero's welcome? The Mexican crowd went crazy for Brandon Moreno. Brandon Royval, they booed, unfortunately, but that's just comes with the territory. We are in Moreno's home here. All in all, they both look fine on the scale. We've seen them next to each other. This is another rematch. We've seen them next to each other. Very respectful handshake. But Raw Dog was able to use that size advantage, that reach last time. Hopefully, he's able to do it again. Moreno should win this fight, but Raw Dog is giving me weird vibes, like something's going to happen. And he keeps talking about drowning him, to take him into deep waters and drown him. Royval might have the best cardio in the weight class. Now, I know he's taking it on short notice, but again, he naturally has good cardio and he trains at altitude. So at the end of the day, I think Moreno probably should win, but the value is definitely on Raw Dog. And again, that's UFC Mexico, Moreno versus Royval 2. Make sure you hit the subscribe, give a follow over on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and please reach out to Clint. Let him know that we're with him. Prayers up for him and his family. And we always have your back, bro. Let's get it.